Welcome, race fans, to another full weekend of NASCAR coverage on Speed. The Sports 2 Top Series are here to meet their manufacturers at this Michigan International Speedway. Hello, everybody. I'm John Roberts, kicking things off from the Speed Stage. Got a great crowd here with us and a full day of coverage. Chances are, if it happens on the racetrack this weekend, you're going to see it right here on Speed. Sprint Cup Series practice is coming up next. 4 races to go until the championship chase is set. NASCAR Live at 1:30. Nationwide Series final practice at 2:30 Eastern Time. And then the hits just keep on coming. Qualifying, NASCAR Live back at 5:30. Regan Smith, Evander Holyfield, and Jamie McMurray will join the normal suspects on trackside. But right now, let's send it up high atop of this Michigan International Speedway and kick off practice with Steve Burns.
And thank you very much, John Roberts. It is a hot, muggy summer day in the Irish Hills of Michigan, the 2-mile Michigan International Speedway, an hour-and-a-half practice for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series teams. And as John Roberts mentioned, the clock is ticking. Just 4 races remain to lock in a spot into NASCAR's version of the postseason, the chase for the championship. And hi, everybody. Glad you're with us. Steve Burns, Larry McReynolds, and Jeff Hammond. Now, guys, we were here just 2 months ago to the day, but in that time, the landscape has changed dramatically.
A tremendous amount has changed because in those 2 months, we've had 7 races. And when we were here in June, even though we had a lot of racing to go, it looked like Hendrick Motorsports versus Joe Gibbs Racing. But when you look at those 7 races, we've had 6 different winners. 3 drivers that were not even on the radar when we were here in June, David Ruderman, Greg Biffle, Montoya, they've got to win. But just to look at some of those guys that were showing so much strength when we were here in June, look at Denny Hamlin, who got his 5th win when we were here in June. And since that win in June, he's only had 1 top 5 finish. You look at Jimmy Johnson. He won the 2 races after we left here, only 1 top 10 the next 5 races. And the 18 team, they've only had 2 top 10s. The teams we're talking about now in particular, the 31 car of Jeff Burton, who's moved to 3rd in points, not to mention those Roush Fenway cars that has really come to life here of late.
And Larry, the thing is, you talk about the landscape changing. How about the fact of this racetrack? Even though it's only been a couple of months, you come back to Michigan, and guys, it ain't the same racetrack. I mean, they've got a lot of practices already been on this racetrack. The Nationwide Tour was here yesterday all day long, 6 hours of practice, a lot of rubber on this racetrack. But the key thing about this place, it is so heat sensitive. Early in the morning, this racetrack's got a ton of grip. But the later you go, when the sun pops out, all of a sudden you can't drive these race cars. So for a lot of these teams, Steve, this practice session is really to try to redefine where's your balance on your race car. What's it going to take to get around here, not only for qualifying later on this afternoon, but looking on into the weekend, what's it going to be like? Are we going to have thunder showers, lose the racetrack? A lot of chasing the weather, at least for me, in this early practice session.
The weather today looks good, just a 10% chance of rain, but there is a little bigger opportunity for some pop-up showers tomorrow here in the Irish Hills.
See Jeff Burton right there in the 31 car. We spoke about him briefly. Just good, solid top 5, top 10 runs, and all of a sudden now he finds himself 3rd in the Sprint Cup Series points, just behind Kevin Harvick and Jeff Gordon.
And Larry, you know, as we go in, and we've only got 4 races before we're going to start the chase. We take a look at Todd Berry, the crew chief on the 31 car. And in talking to Todd, you know, he told me that this is a car that they've run once already this year. They've built 13 new race cars for Jeff Burton so far this year, trying to get better and better each time they build something. But his performances along with his team seem like it's getting stronger and stronger. With this 4 races to go, I mean, Todd's told me, hey, we're up here to win a race. We want to win a race for Jeff Burton, get some bonus points, and try to get ourselves in a better position as we get ready to start this chase, because theoretically they're pretty much locked in, I think, with 4 races to go.
Interesting nugget about this particular race at Michigan. We've had 13 different winners in the last 13 August races here at Michigan.
That is
interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
What does that tell you?
This track's difficult to get a hold of.
It changes a lot, and a lot of times you can't repeat. Speaking of repeating, hey, repeat father right there. Congratulations to Jeff Gordon and Ingrid. I mean, their birth of their son. Thought that's pretty cool. Baby watches now over as far as Hendrick Motorsports is concerned. Jimmy and Jeff both now proud papas.
His little boy, Benjamin Gordon, Leo Benjamin Gordon, was born on Monday. I've been watching this group right here, and you would think this is happy hour final practice. Now you see the 66 car there. That's actually Scott Riggs. Dave Blaney is not in that car this week. And then, of course, Denny Hamlin, the 11 car, who won the race back here in June.
And that red car for Brad Keselowski. Our nationwide point leader had a chance to spend a little time with Brad earlier this week, and he's pretty excited to get back up here. It's pretty much a hometown race for him.
Big fan of Michigan Wolverines, Detroit Red Wings, probably anything that's attached to the state of Michigan. This is, in fact, his home track.
Oh, I did a little, like I say, autograph session at the Discount Tire with him on Wednesday afternoon, and people were bringing out cookies, and somebody had made him crocheted him a quilt, you know, big old, you know, with his name on it. The lady was laughing about it. She said, "You should see me trying to get all this Keselowski, you know, crocheted into this thing." She did a great job. I mean, she really did. I mean, he's a lot of fun to hang out with, as far as, especially up here in Michigan. Everybody loves him.
You know, Steve, you talk about 13 winners in the last 13 August races here. Honestly, you know, we've had a lot of guys that really, they've gotten their arms around this track in the past history of the racing here at Michigan. But you think about 82 previous races here, we've had 32 different winners, which is actually, that's a lot of different winners even in 82 races.
It certainly is. There's a lot of drivers who have won just once here at Michigan.
You mentioned winning just once at Michigan. I think the cool thing about this racetrack is that you can run so many different, you know, grooves around the racetrack. Here's a former winner here, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 car. A little different look this weekend. But going like to Brad Keselowski. Last year in the nationwide race, he passed Kyle Busch on that last little part of the race and was able to win here. So this racetrack can be very, very tricky. He's a little bit on the free side right through the middle of the corner. But this is the same car he finished up in the top 10 with here in June. Talked to Lance McGrew about it. They felt like that would be the best thing to do, is come back with a proven piece that he was comfortable with, and they kind of had a feel about what it needed to get it kind of comfortable for Junior, possibly to be able to get a win here, which I think his last win came here at Michigan. So
yeah, it's been 79 races between wins.
Just 79?
Just 79.
Or to say 26 months, you might say, June of 2008.
No, just 79 sounds easier.
We'll be back with more practice from Michigan right after this. Stay with us. Back at the Michigan International Speedway, a hot summer day, and practice continues. A 90-minute practice for the Sprint Cup Series teams. 4 races remain to get into the chase for the championship. Kevin Harvick, your point leader. The number in that first column is how many points they are ahead of 13th. The number in the middle is how many positions plus or minus from last week. And finally, to the far right, how many wins, and that's relevant because you get 10 bonus points per win once the chase starts.
And kudos to our people in the graphic truck. I think we're the first network to show you how many points those guys are in front of the 13th place. That's all that matters right now.
Yeah, that 12th and final spot is all that matters.
And the battle we're getting ready to see between Mark Martin, Clint Boyer. You can't count Ryan Newman or Jamie McMurray. And maybe, you know, it depends on what Dale Jr. does here. You can't count these guys out. I think when you look at guys like David Ruderman and Juan Pablo Montoya, they're going to have a miracle in the remaining 4 races.
And the thing about it, guys, we can't predict things like what happened to Clint Boyer at Watkins Glen last week. Broke a trailing arm mount. That's we can talk about performance, but that's the things we can't predict. Engines, parts failures, or getting caught up in a wreck.
Let's go back to the garage and catch up with Wendy Venturini. Good afternoon, Wendy.
Good afternoon, Steve. Yes, guys, you were talking about 12th and 13th. If you were to draw an imaginary line of where I'm standing in the garage area, it quite possibly is the most important line. It separates 12th and 13th. Of course, Mark Martin in going into this weekend in Michigan. Clint Boyer out by 10 points. When we come to Michigan, who has a ton of experience? Well, it's Mark Martin with 49 starts. He has 5 wins at this racetrack. Right now, his balance is very close. Clint Boyer is a little bit too loose. When we come to Michigan, he only has 9 starts, 0 top 5s and 2 top 10s. So 2 guys going head-to-head, plus many others fighting for this top 12. It's going to be a battle as we get down to crunch time. Let's head over to Bob Dillner.
Well, Wendy, a driver swap here in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series garage this morning. Kevin Conway and the Extends team, they've been a partner all year long here in the garage, but this morning, Tony Raines in the 34 car for this race team. Now, I did speak to GM Jerry Freese, and what he told me is Extends has actually taken a hiatus from their sponsorship here in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. They would like to return sometime later this year or next year. But in the interim, they've put Tony Raines behind the wheel of the number 34 team for this weekend in Michigan and next week at Bristol as well. So a little driver swap here in the garage area, boys.
Don't you love our sport, though? 10 points, and you almost can't even walk between the 12th and 13th place car. That's Clint Boyer's car we're looking at there, the 33 car. There's Mark Martin.
I'm still wondering how you take a hiatus from your sponsorship. Anyone?
I have no comment there whatsoever.
And the announcement this week, we see Casey Kane. A lot of news this week. He's headed to Red Bull for one season.
I think that right there is a big surprise, especially to a guy like Darrell Walter, because Darrell felt pretty strong that he would be in that 5 car. But, you know, Mark Martin said, hey, this is my ride until I decide to get out of it, which, you know, maybe at the end of the 2011 season.
And Mark is not taking a hiatus.
No, he is not taking a hiatus. And if anything, I think you've got him more fired up than ever. And, you know, I think that Casey will do great over there. I'll be real curious to see if they elect to stay with their same, you know, crew and crew chief alignment once they bring him over there, because we've talked about it many times. I think one of the best combinations in the garage area and on pit road is Kenny Francis with Casey Kane.
I was listening to XM Sirius Radio on the way in, and a guy posed an interesting question, one of the callers, to Mike Bagley and Pete Pistone, which is, what if Casey Kane goes over there and starts winning a bunch of races? I mean, the truth of the matter is he has a contract for 2012, but it sets up some interesting scenarios.
Well, let me tell you who it helps the most is Red Bull Racing. I listened to Jay Fry in the press conference the other day when they announced this, Jay, the president of the competition at Red Bull Racing, and he said everyone's been asking him, why would you hire Casey Kane for only 1 year? He said, the best analogy I can give you, why would the Minnesota Vikings hire Brett Favre for 1 year knowing you only had him probably for 1 year? Because he said, we need someone to lift our organization up. Who better to probably do it than Casey Kane? Jeff, here's the other thing that I picked up on. When Jay Fry was asked about Kenny Francis, his comment was, who would not want to hire Kenny Francis? And he kind of left it at that.
And I think that's a great problem for them to have over there, because if you could bring somebody like Kenny Francis in to maybe be your director of competition and help both teams and be there when you need him, I think that would be a big plus, keeping this combination together. But the other thing, a lot of people are sitting there scratching their heads saying, Steve, Hendrick Motorsport is Chevrolet.
Exactly.
Red Bull is Toyota. How can this happen? Don't forget that Rick Hendrick owns a lot of car dealerships. And Lee White from Toyota said, look, Rick is a friend of Toyota's. Not only, you know, here at the track, we don't have a problem with him. He's a competitor, but he does business with our company, does a lot of business with our company. So why would we have a problem, you know, having his driver drive for us? And he said the same thing that you said a minute ago, Lee White from Toyota. We would love to have a driver in our cars that can get us to victory lane. It's all about winning, and that's what every Sunday's always about. I'd hire Casey Kane to drive one race for me if I had a good team.
All it will do is raise the stock of whichever one of those Red Bull cars that he's actually in.
See Carl Edwards in the 99. He's one of the Roush Fenway drivers who have contributed to a total of 20 NASCAR wins here for the Roush Fenway organization. 11 in the Cup Series, 5 Truck Series wins, and 4 in the Nationwide. And happy to announce, if you haven't kept up with it, Jack Roush has been released from the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota.
And you know, Roush Fenway was the topic of the top of our show. In the last 4 races, you know, of course they have the 4 teams. The last 4 races, their average finish collectively has been 12.9. That's compared to almost an average finish of 20th the 4 races prior to that. These boys are coming to life.
Carl Edwards has 5 straight finishes of 7th or better, and in those 5 weeks, he's gone from 12th to 9th in the points. You see the new fathers, Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. Are they talking horsepower or diapers?
Diapers.
Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice for Michigan is brought to you by Sprint, the Now Network. And right now, a Roush Fenway driver is the quickest in this practice. Greg Biffle in the 16 car, followed by Jamie McMurray, Kevin Harvick. 31 car of Jeff Burton, and then the 6 of David Reagan as we watch Clint Boyer, 7th overall. I want to mention, too, Scott Speed right in between Reagan and Boyer, 6th overall. And that's the other part of the equation for Red Bull is what's going to happen to Scott Speed.
Yeah, there's still a lot of speculation about whether Scott will return to the 82 car or not. But, again, that'll be up to Jay Fry and the folks at Red Bull. But, you know, that's one part of 2011 you got to worry about. But right now, 2010 and 4 races to go is the only thing that's on the mind of Clint Boyer and his 33 car. Because, again, when you come to Michigan, he's got to take down. He's got to outrun Mark Martin, winner of 5 races here. And Clint, you know, last year, he got a top 10 finish out of this race. He's going to need another one. If not, maybe even a top 5 to be able to keep pace with Mark Martin, you got to believe. There's a lot of pressure right there.
And, you know, honestly, performance-wise, the 33 and the 5 is pretty equal. Like we kind of documented, the broken trailing arm mount at Watkins Glen. But you know what? One more caution. Those boys were going to be back in business.
Yeah.
They had already gotten 2 free passes, and we had made it back to 1 lap down at the end of that race.
They did an excellent job of just about getting themselves back in position where they could have overcome that and hung on to 12th place. But speaking of kind of sizing each other up, there's the 33 just in front of Mark Martin. He's kind of saying, let's see what you got there, buddy. I mean, it's early in the practice, but anytime you can get somebody's head, work on them a little bit and kind of see what you've got going for you, I think is always a plus.
Look, Jeff, look at that number we just saw. 49 starts at the Michigan International Speedway for Mark Martin. 16 top 5s, 24 top 10s, 5 wins.
You know what you call that? Experience. The man has got a ton of experience. You can't beat experience when it comes to a situation like he's in right now. Just so I can simplify that, that's the way Jake Elder would say it. It's experience, folks.
You know, the one thing that I'm anxious, and I'm not saying this in a negative way. I'm just making a statement. I'm anxious to see, now that the distraction of the media hounding Mark Martin about 2011, now that that's kind of put to bed, is that possibly going to help the performance? Because I truly believe, even with all that experience, that Mark Martin is still easily distracted from things like that, from the media just saying, what are you doing, what are you doing, what are you doing next year?
I don't think it was a distraction. I think it was an aggravation to the point that it was making him mad that he couldn't stay focused on what he needed to be
You could hear it in his interviews.
Yeah. I mean, you're questioning what I'm saying. It's my car. I am driving the 5. No, you're not. Darrell Walter's saying it. This news service is saying it. Everybody knows, you know, Casey Kane's going to be driving the 5. You're not going to be driving. Where are you going to be going? No, it's my car. So when you're spending so much time thinking about the next time somebody's going to walk up and ask you that, you're not thinking about your race car. Total focus. And, Larry, I agree with you. I think it will help them. And I think it'll make it more interesting because, again, we know how well RCR has been performing. I mean, the guys at Hendrick have been a little bit up and down this year. So, I mean, this is going to be such a nail-biter all the way through the checker flag at Richmond.
Because he's had to deal with that for quite a while because they made the announcement about Casey Kane quite a while ago. But, Bob, speaking of Hendrick Motorsports, how about this 48 car?
Well, it's been a roller coaster for them since they last won at Loudon. In the last 5 races, only 1 top 10 finish for Jimmy Johnson. And he put on his first run of the day here around this racetrack. And he came on the radio afterwards and said, boys, this car is awfully loose. We almost hit the wall. So Chad Knaus and this team have gone to work on this car, made some changes. Jimmy Johnson climbing back in. He'll go back out. But right now, just a little too loose for Jimmy Johnson.
You know, Bob, when they were here in June, they ended up finishing 6th. They were actually doing a lot of experimenting back in June. And Jimmy, I read his quotes this week. He said almost the minute that they dropped the green flag on race day, he knew that the science project was not very good. They still salvaged a 6th place finish out of it.
Yeah, they started 3rd as far as qualifying is concerned, but I think it goes back to what I said earlier. This racetrack has changed so much that when they came in here to set up the Chad Knaus and the engineers decided to put under the 48 car was too much out of control to make Jimmy happy. So they've only run 1 lap of practice. So they've got their work cut out for him as far as trying to get the car more comfortable for him because he's still 11th quickest.
Jimmy Johnson's led 510 laps here at Michigan, but this is one of just 4 active tracks where he has not won, including Chicago, Homestead, and Watkins Glen. Well, the driver of the 1 car will join us for a little Motor City Mayhem tonight on trackside. That's Jamie McMurray. And he will also be joined by 5-time heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield.
Real deal.
You better be careful.
I will.
Sam Hornets Jr. getting around this Michigan International Speedway. Got a got the proverbial vote of confidence. Roger Penske says he's not going anywhere. He's going to race NASCAR.
Right now, Sam is 29th quickest. He's run a total of 10 laps. Comes in here with a little bit of momentum. Had that 11th place run at Pocono a couple weeks ago, led some laps. And in a pretty uneventful race at Watkins Glen last week. Qualified 12th and finished 14th.
You know what, guys? We've said this, it seems like just about every week. Wow, he looked loose there. But, you know, Sam, they've had fast race cars. They've been competitive at times. They just still have to put the whole race together.
It's the inconsistency.
Correct.
He shows, like you're saying, that he can be fast, and sometimes, again, he looks like he is just ready to break out at Pocono. Great call by his crew chief getting him up front, and all of a sudden it looked like he was going to hang on and have another top 5 finish, and it handle a little bit went away on the car, and he slipped back. But I think it's the inconsistency part that everybody is getting a little bit concerned about. Is it, you know, like say, he can be fast, but it's in short spurts, and it's sometimes at the wrong time of the race.
Tony Stewart, kind of something we see a lot on Friday. Looks like he's working on race runs. He's 37th quickest with this 14 car. He's run a total of 10 laps.
Tony has a win here. You see that came back in 2000.
Finished 5th here in the June race, but
a lot of top 5 finishes.
A lot of top 5 finishes, and Larry, I think that's what they're, once again, they're going to work on this kind of stuff today, trying to get him to where he can get a win. I think that's really what they're wanting to focus on. I don't care where I qualify right now. Just get me where I can race my way to the front and win a race.
Well, this is his 12th season in Sprint Cup. In his first 11 seasons, he has never won a season without winning a race. He cut it a little bit close a couple of years ago.
Yep.
It was all the way to the fall Talladega race, but he's won a race, at least one race every season. There's his crew chief, Darian Grubb. But this group has definitely come to life because honestly, we keep referring back to being here 2 months ago. This was a car that I think we were a little concerned about as far as their performance. And you look now, he comes in here 8th in the points. And if you remember our graphic a while ago, he's 234 points to the good right now in front of 13th place Clint Boyer.
5 top 5s in the last 9 races for Tony Stewart.
Tony actually won an IROC race here back in 2001.
And here I got a little nugget from you.
A nugget?
From Jimmy. I don't want to take credit for it, but we were looking at Tony Stewart. He has scored more points than any other driver in the last 10 races. So you talk about consistency and kind of turning that corner, Larry, since we were here in June. He's gotten better and better and better. I was a little bit disappointed they didn't have a better run at the Glen because he'd been so dominant there in recent years, but even so, he got a top 10 finish out of it.
You know, looking at Kurt Busch here in the 2 car, just trying to see exactly where he's at on the speed chart as we speak right now.
He's 36 right now, Larry.
Yep, yeah, he's run a total of 9 laps.
Yep.
But, you know, so much has been said about the success of Ganassi Racing, and rightly so. You just looked last week. Chip won everything there is to win. The Rolex race at Watkins Glen, the Cup race. Dario Franchitti won at Mid-Ohio. But when you think about Penske Racing, they are actually in a position that they could be thinking about winning the championship, obviously, in the Nationwide Series with Brad Keselowski, in the IndyCar Series with Will Power, and this will be the bullet more than likely that they have for the Sprint Cup Series championship. And think about it. Penske Racing has never won a championship of any kind in NASCAR racing.
There have been a lot of history written this year, especially by the guys you would kind of like not expect, like you mentioned, Chip Ganassi, and it'd be a great plus for them. As take a look right here, there's a great battle between Marcus Ambrose and Kurt Busch right there at the last of the race. Kurt was able to get around Marcos in that 47 car for second place. I mean, they went door handle to door handle for several laps.
I'm gonna tell you what, guys. Overall, the racing that we had at Watkins Glen, I know there's always talk about, do we need to go to road courses? Do we need more road courses? Do there need to be a road course in the Chase? But when I think about, and I think having 3 days of good weather up there helped the cause.
Plus paving those runoff areas.
Absolutely. The crowd we had there, the racing that we had there, shoot, it makes me want to go back to another road course race coming up before the year's out.
Let's go back to Wendy.
Well, I'll tell you who's pretty fast off the truck. It's Greg Biffle and the 16 car. They are flying, and what's different about their car and their communication right now versus everyone else in practice, they made some long runs, 14 laps right now, fastest in this practice session, and they are working on more than just setup. They're working on which lines worked best for Greg Biffle in this race car. They were finding which part of the racetrack they were the fastest on, and they said no one is rim riding right now. He was about a quarter of the car length width off the wall. With these long runs, Greg Irwin, the crew chief, said, you are pretty darn good. Greg wanted to know about the 48, the 14, and the 29. Biffle got good news. He is faster than all. Bob?
Well, Wendy, speaking of the 29, Kevin Harvick has climbed out of his race car talking to crew chief Gil Martin right there, and they're done as far as race mode practice here. They're going to go into Q trim, qualifying trim, but Kevin likes his race car. He said the lack of grip in the rear end coming off the corner was a little bit of a concern, but they plan on focusing on that tomorrow. Right now, going into Q mode for these guys, and they're happy with their race cars so far.
I like what I see down there, Bob. I like the body language. Kevin Harvick, Gil Martin, happy. You see the hand gesturing, but they're okay.
That if you took a shot off him a year ago, you wouldn't have seen those kind of smiles.
What'd you say?
He was cranky. Tomorrow, the treacherous Lady in Black is back. We love the Trek, too tough to tame. It's the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series as they return to Darlington live tomorrow at 7 Eastern, only on Speed. Let's go back to the garage and Bob Dillner as practice continues. Bob?
Well, down here with car owner Richard Childress, a big announcement for you this week, going back to 4-car team for next year with Paul Menard. What prompted you to make that decision, Richard?
Well, we feel you need 4 teams to be competitive with the other teams, the Hendricks and the Rouches, and Paul's a great driver. He's really shown he's come into his own as a driver. I've been friends with Menards we raced together back in India in 2000, 2001, and just to be back with Menards and to have, we've been talking about it for years, and finally pull a trigger on it, it's good.
Big announcement for Richard Childress this week, and guys, it'll be interesting to see how those 4 teams gel, because the last time they had 4 teams, not as much success for RCR.
But I tell you, Bob, working for Richard Childress, there's not a more hands-on owner in the garage here. I mean, look at him right there, headset on, going from car to car. Trust me, I feel the same thing, that the last time he had 4 teams, it didn't work. But I guarantee you that man right there learned from the mistakes before of having a 4th team. I don't think it will take away from that operation going to it now.
And I think what they've learned, Steve, plugging Paul Menard in there, he is probably one of the easiest guys to get along with as far as that garage area is concerned. And so if they can surround him with the right people, it should wind up being a very successful deal. And I'll point out something else when you talk about Richard Childress Racing. 3 of our top 4 fastest cars in this practice session are all running ECR engines.
Wow. Earnhardt Childress Racing engines. And, Bob Dillner told us in the commercial break a few moments ago that not only was the driver change made this morning on that, but it was essentially 15 minutes before practice that they took Kevin Conway out and put Tony Raines in.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't
Tony's
in that garage area. I mean, it's big difference in size.
Tony's a lot taller than Kevin Conway.
But, obviously a lot of this was stimulated from the sponsorship going away. But what I'm seeing here, even with 14 races to go in 2011, it appears that somewhat desperation is starting to set in with a lot of the teams that are outside the top 35. When you look at the fact the 26 car is here, not with David Strimmy, with Patrick Compantier, who actually drove the car at Watkins Glen. Tony Raines is in the 34 car. Scott Riggs is in the 66 car. Dave Blaney's out of that. It's almost like these teams are starting to search for something that will make their program a little bit faster, a little bit better.
Speaking of getting a little bit better, how about Juan Pablo Montoya last week, guys? Did he give everybody pretty much a clinic on road course racing?
Absolutely.
But I tell you, I'm happy for Juan, and this was the road course race at Watkins Glen last week. Led 74 of 90 laps and ended that 114 streak of not going to victory lane since he wanted Infineon back in 2007. But the guy I was the happiest for, and I couldn't wait to find him this morning in the garage area, is the crew chief of this 42 car, Brian Patty. His first win in the Sprint Cup Series, it came on the heels of a couple of controversial weekends with he and his driver Juan. And how about it coming at a racetrack that Brian has actually won now a race in all 3 series, because he won with Ron Fellows there in the Camping World Truck Series and the Nationwide
and
Series.
we've talked about this, guys, all year. The performance of that race car is without question top 5 every week. They've got the speed, but they've had mechanical problems at times. They've been caught up in accidents at times, and Juan's been aggressive at times, to be quite honest. They've led laps in their last 6 races, and the most laps in 2 of the last 3, but didn't have much to show for it until last week.
No, not till last week. I mean, again, like you say, they've been knocking on the door quite a bit here in this 42 car. Up on top of the one of the Ganassi trucks right there, you can see Kevin Mannion. Looks like Brian Patty right there on the left-hand side of working with the engineers. Both those guys up there, sharing information, watching their cars. But I'm like Larry. Brian Patty is probably one of the coolest guys there is in the garage area, and he has worked extremely hard not only to get this car in the chase a year ago, but to give them an opportunity to be fast, to be able to win some races, and they just keep slipping through their fingers. And last week, this win was not won by accident. I mean, it was definitely a dominant performance by everybody on this 42 car. I mean, it showed that you can put issues behind and excel. I mean, again, a week before, you'd have thought this team was getting ready to have a knockdown drag out right at the end of the show. But they put it behind them. Chip Ganassi did an excellent job of getting everybody refocused. And the end performance, it was flawless. It really was.
2 things that also went along with that win, Steve and Jeff, I don't think got documented hardly any at all, is Ganassi now joins Joe Gibbs Racing as the only operation to get more than one of their teams to victory lane in 2010. And also Montoya becomes the first foreign driver in NASCAR Sprint Cup Series races to win multiple wins. Mario Andretti and Earl Ross each won 1.
Sunday, NASCAR race day marches into Michigan with Michigan Jim as A.J. Allmendinger, Denny Hamlin, and Watkins Glen winner Juan Pablo Montoya join the show live. NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot, live from Michigan, 10 Eastern, and only on Speed.
I'm anxious to hear the interview with A.J. Allmendinger, because remember, he just signed a multi-year contract extension with Richard Petty Motorsports, and he has to feel like he's almost starting to become on an island by himself. Elliott Sadler has no idea what he's doing in 2011. We obviously know Casey Kane's leaving. Now just recently Paul Menard announced he's leaving. So I hope JR and the boys will kind of ask him about that. You're a team of 4, but right now you're an army of 1.
I just got an email, speaking of which, Richard Petty will be on NASCAR Race Hub on Thursday in studio.
And congratulations to you, Mr. Steve Burns. You will now be the permanent host of the 1-hour Hub show. Yep. And how about a new $1 million set to work out of?
I hope I don't mess it up.
Boy.
Are you gonna let us come
Absolutely.
And visit every now and then?
Yeah, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Taking a look here at Ryan Newman in that 39 car, running some practice laps. He's currently 12th quickest in this practice session, and he has run 12 laps.
And this is just one of those teams. I know we looked at the points graphic a while ago, sitting there 14th in points, only 83 points out of the top 12. The performance is just not that good right now with this 39 car. They're just not hardly a top 10 team right now.
And a few weeks
Tony
ago,
Gibson's going to be on Race Hub, so I'll ask him. Make me a list of questions, Larry. I'll ask Tony Gibson.
Make sure you do that. But talking to Bobby Hutchins, team manager for Stewart Haas Racing a couple of weeks ago at Pocono, I asked him about that, Larry, and he said, they've been evaluating, feeling like, a couple times Ryan has gotten caught up in other people's problems, and that's cost them. They've had some bad luck in that regards. But he said overall the team was better than what was a year ago, but they can't quite get the performance out. So, again, they're not out of the chase yet, but they definitely have a huge hill to climb in a short time to get it done.
But I think it's like we've said over and over and over again. It's the teams this year that are so much better than they were a year ago, in particular the 3 Richard Childress racing cars.
Who didn't even make the chase.
Not a one of them. And then also you think about all of a sudden the Roush Fenway cars come to life. I think that's probably the biggest thing. This 39 team's probably a little better than they were a year ago. Everyone else has caught
Stepped up.
Ryan Newman heads to the garage, and we do as well with Bob Dillner.
Well, I'll tell you what, right now it's a little bit of the new car blues for Kurt Busch and this Blue Deuce crew right here. 36 quick on the speed charts right now, and this is a brand new race car. And I just spoke to crew chief Steve Addington. He said it's doing a little bit of both. It's a little loose, a little tight. But Kurt Busch just got on the radio and said the place we're getting beat is the same place we got beat here when we finished in the top 10 in June. And that's actually into turn 3, and the car just doesn't want to cut in the middle of 3 to be able to give him the run coming off of turn number 4. So right now that's what they're trying to figure out. One more race type mode run before they go to Q trim. Wendy?
Jamie McMurray is second in this practice session, but let me take you through the practice so far for Jamie Mack, because he put up a fast lap at the beginning, but then was extremely unhappy with his race car. Now, Kevin Bono made some changes to his car. He said it's 90% better, way better on entry, way easier to drive, a lot more comfortable. Those are words crew chiefs like to hear. They're making one more change for one more run, then they're going to swap over to qualifying trim. Jamie McMurray now much more comfortable in this race car, and that sponsor on that race car, guys, Norelco Body Groomer. I'll leave it to you guys.
No, we'll leave that. No,
We'll leave that
Wendy,
to
we're going
Larry.
to leave that to Hammond, the body groomer,
I didn't got any hair on my butt.
because you groom.
But I did read or hear, and of course we can talk to Jamie about this tonight on trackside, that he's judging a contest out behind the main grandstand here on Sunday about the most creative, I guess, design with body hair.
Oh, boy.
I'm just not sure about that one.
You know, when you're thinking about, as a kid, I'm going to be a race car driver, I'm not sure if judging body hair competitions
Body
is a
art.
dream.
Body art.
Exactly where that
Body art.
ranks.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
not sure.
Little landscaping going on there, but I want to go back to that one car I quick watching the crew member crawl out from underneath it. It looked to me, Larry, like they were working with the truck arms, and that they were possibly or adjusting it, trying to get it to where you could steer the rear end a little different as far as getting to the entry of the corner. They're talking about working on that, and that's one of the areas you can work in by making an adjustment with the truck arms, either forward or back, or even up and down as far as that's concerned, Steve.
You know, one thing I've learned from both of you crew chiefs over the past 10 years, when I ask you about Michigan, you guys have always said the same thing. What does it take to win here? And you always say a perfect car.
Everything.
Because you've got to have, not to be cliche, but you better have that total package.
Yes, sir. Horsepower, torque off the corners. You only have 18 degrees of banking in these corners, which is not a lot of banking, and you're carrying so much speed. So aero is a huge part of it. And as we well know, I guarantee you, especially starting tomorrow in those 2 practice sessions, these guys, the engine guys, the crew chiefs, will start thinking about fuel mileage, because how many races have we seen that came down to fuel mileage here at Michigan?
All that's going to come into play, Steve, because, again, where do we go that we got a 2-mile racetrack with these big sweeping corners? I mean, wide sweeping corners. I mean, you can run high, you can run low. The key is momentum. You got to keep the car where you can drive it in the corner, but power down and drive it off with authority, too.
Greg Biffle has still posted the quickest lap. See Richard Childress in the garage. We'll be right back. Competitors on the racetrack, but this is a small sport when you get right down to it. Both drivers with Chevrolet, Jeff Burton with Richard Childress Racing, and Jeff Gordon with Hendrick Motorsports.
Sitting there second and third in the points.
Yeah, that hand gesture said it all. That's how loose he was.
It kind of rolled over on the right
And
rear.
Jeff Burton was laughing, me too. I've seen a lot of loose race cars here this afternoon. And we're 50 minutes into an hour-and-a-half practice.
You know, Bob mentioned this is a brand new car, and I know a lot of people would say, well, gosh, if they sat on the pole here in the spring and finished third, why would they not bring that car back? Talked to Steve Addington on Wednesday a little bit about that. They come in here 4th in the points with a 261-point cushion. When you're up there that high in the points with that much of a cushion, yeah, you're trying to win races. You're trying to get bonus points. As we well know, this 2 car has 2 wins this year, but you're trying to learn everything you can to build your arsenal just as high as you can build it for those 10 chase races coming up.
You know, Larry, to your point, it's like any other sport. You got to catch lightning in a bottle. You got to get hot at the right time.
Well, let's go one step further. What Larry's saying here is, where do we go after Michigan that it may have an impact on you? You got to go to California, another 2-mile racetrack that's in the chase. You've got Kansas City coming up. You've got several racetracks that this testing deal that this little experiment that they're doing with this new car may benefit them if they can figure it out, Steve.
And the reverse is true. Let's look at Brian Vickers last year. They made a dramatic charge to get in the chase, but once the chase started, that team was spent.
Yeah, they.
I mean, no criticism. They did an amazing job to get in the chase, but they were not a factor in the chase.
Well, let's face it.
In the chase.
The NASCAR schedule is like running a marathon. You know, you've got to save a little bit for the end. You just can't go out front and run all as hard as you can. And by the time you get to the halfway point, you know, thinking it's the final lap. And I think we've seen that several times. And I think Chad Knaus in the 48 car is a perfect example of how you do it and how you have that little bit of reserve, because every time they get into that final 10 races, they find something like nobody else. I mean, they really do. They not only race smart, but they're able to go out there and win races. I mean, last year's performance was just totally mind-blowing. To have 9 top 10 finishes, with the exception of the issue at Texas. I mean, they were almost perfect with 4 wins out of that too. So.
Well, Saturday, August 14th, we are excited. You can go back to Darlington Raceway when the trucks of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series return to the track. Too Tough to Tame. Purchase a specially priced Speed Open Garage ticket package and go inside the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series garage. Visit speed.com, keyword promo, to purchase your Speed Open Garage ticket package today. Back to Michigan right after this. Got about 30 minutes left in this hour and a half NASCAR Sprint Cup Series practice. A look inside the garage area, and that's where we'll go right now with Bob Dillner.
Well, Steve, right now a lot of teams changing over to qualifying mode, and that's why it's a calm before the storm, so to speak, on the racetrack. Jeff Burton, one of those competitors right now, 4th quick in race trim. How was your car?
It's pretty good. We had we were doing a little bit of experimenting. We had one thing that I really was happy with it, and then we tried a few other things and I wasn't so happy with it. But you know, that's Michigan and that's racing. You know, always trying to get better and improve. But I feel pretty good about it.
I'll tell you what, Jeff Burton and this team right now riding a streak of 6 straight top 10 finishes. Wendy.
Thank you, Bob. Greg Biffle, fastest in this practice session. The team switching over to qualifying trim now. Can you make your car any better, because it looked pretty good off the hauler?
Yeah, we really didn't make any changes to the 3 and 4 Fusion. Just ran really fast right up the truck. You know, came in, looked at it, went back out, made another little run, and just came back, put a plug check, and come back, put it qualifying trim, see how we can get it to go.
All right, Greg Biffle now is going to make that qualifying run. He has 2 wins here at Michigan. Steve?
You know, we talked about he's fastest in this practice so far with about 35 minutes to go. Think back to Watkins Glen on Friday. He was fastest in both of those practice sessions as well.
Well, I'll tell you something that may hurt him, and we talk a lot about the temperature here, the luck of the draw. Right now, just looking at the qualifying order, the 39.
How'd you get that?
Hey, man, I have got
where's
sources.
The teamwork?
I just got it. I just calmed down. I'll
man.
share it with you. With the 39 car, Ryan Newman will go out first, and the 16 of Greg Biffle will go out 7th. The guy who gets the benefit of all this, talking to him a minute ago, Jeff Burton, he goes out 34th, and you know good and well, Larry, if you're going out late here at Michigan, that's going to be worth a couple of tenths.
Yeah, I mean, it can mean a lot today, because what we're seeing is a lot of cloud coverings, and the sun's kind of going in and out. So if you happen to catch one of those cloud coverings, it could be worth a lot on a stopwatch. Just looking where Mr. Gordon goes out. He goes out 13th, the 24 car. You can see the cloud covering there. I know when I came in here this morning, I have never seen it so foggy.
It was foggy.
You could not even see the front stretch from the front stretch grandstands. It was so foggy. One thing that we need to make sure we mention, if we didn't, we have 47 cars here. 4 cars will be going home. And right now, with about 35 minutes to go in this practice, the cars that are the slowest of those go-homers, Mike Bliss in the 32 car, Patrick Crampontier in the 26, Scott Riggs in the 66, and Michael McDowell in the 55 car. That's the 4 slowest of the go-home cars right now. Jimmy Johnson right now 7th quickest, but I guess the thing that I would be a little alarmed, Jeff, is just looking at the scoring monitor, it's pretty obvious Chad Knaus and Jimmy Johnson, they're 7th quickest working on qualifying runs only.
Right.
Greg Biffle is quickest, and we know they've really not made a practice qualifying run yet because it was well documented. They're in race trim.
Yeah, I think, again, Larry, they came up here with a qualifying setup that was so loose, they're having to kind of like work backwards a little bit to get this car comfortable. As we take a look at the 26 car of Patrick Carpentier, and he's only run 9 laps also, and he's 41st quickest.
We'll be right back to Michigan. Stay with us here on Speed. Sprint brings you an inside look at what's happening now inside the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. For more NASCAR stats, in-car audio, and live race radio, check out NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile at sprint.com/speed.
You know, just looking at that 29 car right there, Kevin Harvick, of course, we've documented our points leader. What we are hearing is that probably within a couple of weeks at the most that it's going to be announced that Budweiser will be the sponsorship on that 29 car in 2011. They just got a few more I's to dot and T's to cross. Bob.
Right now here in the garage area, Kyle Busch sits inside his number 18 machine, 22nd quick right now, but Kyle does not like his race car. He said it is about a 4 loose in turns 1 and 2 and a 10 loose down in 3 and 4. And the big thing for this team is they started out in qualifying mode here. So unlike a lot of other teams that are switching over right now to Q trim, that it started out in the race type mode, Kyle has been in qualifying mode the entire time, and right now, unfortunately for him and this team, he doesn't like his race car.
And he was one of the guys I talked about at the top of the show. You know, he got his 2 wins, almost like back-to-back races at Richmond and at Dover. But since he finished 2nd at Pocono in June, he only has 2 top 10 finishes, and that was finishing 8th at Indianapolis and 8th at Watkins Glen last week.
Hadn't led a lot of laps either when you look at it.
Contrary to what he's doing in the Nationwide Series.
Which is winning about every other race that he's in. I guess he's won half the races, but yeah, he hasn't led a lap in the last 4 Sprint Cup races.
You know, we're taking a look here at A.J. Allmendinger in the 43 car, and he just moved up to 14th quickest on his 18th lap in that Richard Petty entry. Steve, you were talking about having the king on, and we were talking about A.J. Allmendinger all of a sudden being the last man standing over there. One of the questions you might want to ask is, why are you running all your teammates off?
But I tell you, what a great run he had. He had a great weekend last weekend. He sat there and qualified 4th. I think he, other than through pit stops transition, he was in the top 5 the entire day at Watkins Glen and ended up finishing 4th there.
You know, that's only his 2nd top 5 finish in 102 starts. So, you know, maybe it's a vision of things to come, but I mean, that's what he needs more of, is top 5 finishes. We know he can be fast, but like several other drivers out there we've been kind of documenting, they've got to be able to close the deal. I mean, it's a tough league that we're in as far as the Sprint Cup's concerned. So, you know, just because you can run fast every now and then, you got to be able to run fast all day long.
David Rudiman, 15th overall for his best lap.
He is.
And this, you know, I hate to put this much pressure on one race, but this could be a make-or-break race for him Sunday if he's going to have any shot to make the chase.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's make or break for a lot of guys.
Right. I think there's about 4 guys in that category right now that need to be 1, 2, 3, 4 to mathematically, you know, kind of like think, okay, we've got an opportunity. They've got to cut into this deficit as far as 12th place by, you know, maybe not by half, but pretty darn close to it. Picking up 70 points or 80 points on a guy is not easy, especially against the competition that you're running against today.
And Jimmy Hicks just gave me a great note as we look at Matt Kenseth. 3 of the drivers ranked 13th through 17th have won here at Michigan.
So what you're trying to tell them, it's going to be even more difficult.
That's exactly right.
Matt Kenseth currently 11th. He's run a total of 11 laps in this 17 car.
Now here's a guy that he's not been flashy, but he sure has been steady. And talking to Jimmy Finnick, the crew chief on this car, they feel like that they're getting better and better with their chassis setups and especially with their engine program. They're back now this week with the FR9 engine in the car. Feel like it's putting out a little bit more power. So look for this guy here to hang tough over the next 4 races and make the chase. I mean, I think it's going to be real hard to shake Kenseth out there as steady as he's been so far this season.
But here's the thing I'll say about Matt Kenseth in the 17 car as we look at his teammate Carl Edwards in the 99. What Matt is living off of right now, what I mean by that, what has him in the top 12 is you look at his first 13 races from Daytona to Charlotte, he had 8 top 10 finishes. But in the races since Charlotte, his best finish was 12th at Indianapolis. He finishes, but he's just a top 15 car every week. That's going to get him in the chase probably, but it's not going to do a whole lot when you get in the chase.
But Larry, don't you guys feel like that Roush Fenway organization has turned a corner?
All but that 17 car. To me, they're running the same that they ran at the beginning of the season. Maybe even not quite as good, because he was clicking those top 10s and top 5s off week in and week out the first third of the season.
Okay, and when was that going on?
When Todd Parrott was there, right?
And when they were running more of the rear wing.
This is true.
So,
yep.
you know, again, that was one of the questions I posed for Jimmy. It was, you know, what do you think? He said, well, he has really struggled with getting the car feeling like he wants it to feel after they took the wing off. So, you know, they feel like that's getting better and possibly going to have better cars for them as they make the stretch run down to the chase, Steve. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. But I believe he'll be able to hang on. I think his experience and that veteran crew chief will make sure that happens.
Nothing like that experience.
I hear you. Greg Biffle still the quickest. Stay with us here at Michigan. Well, take a look at this busy schedule, will you? I mean, come on, it's Bristol, baby. It's coming up. Dave Despain on assignment Monday following Race Hub with a great look at the Bristol Motor Speedway. And on Wednesday, yep, we're going to race on a high-banked half-mile, qualifying for the Camping World Truck Series and the Whelen Modifieds. And look at what's coming your way on Friday from Bristol. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Lots to talk about at Bristol.
Now, a little birdie told me on that 7 a.m. the racing chef next Saturday, Steve Burns will be cooking with Chef Nicky.
Yeah, is that true?
Anything to that?
Yeah, I worked on some meat.
Bob, are you going to be cooking too on the racing chef?
Well, you know, I just got my request actually, so I'm going to have to think of what I want to cook with the chef there, because that's a pretty darn cool show. But
hey, Bob, peanut butter and jelly don't count.
Oh, come on now. That's the easiest. That's about the only thing I do other than microwave hot dogs. But I'll tell you what, Denny Hamlin right now is struggling with his race car just a little bit. And in fact, the last time we were here was his last victory. And in the span since then, Denny Hamlin has really struggled. 7 races, only 2 top 10 finishes. They are trying to get back on track, but this is the same car that he won with here in June. But he's got the same problem that his teammate, which is parked right next to him, Kyle Busch, has. They are in Q trim, and they are very, very loose. They just changed the left rear spring on this car to try to make another run here before this practice ends, Wendy.
You guys are way behind on your cooking. I cooked chicken Marsala with Chef Nicky at the beginning of the season. But who's not cooking right now? It's Carl Edwards. He's P21 in this practice session. He feels like the bottom is hitting the splitter possibly. His car got really tight in turn 3. He's about 3/4 of the way up the track, and turns 1 and 2 is the line that Carl Edwards has taken, and up top in 3 and 4. And right now that equates to 21st fastest in practice. He just went back to the hauler for a few seconds, and I'm sure they want to get a few more runs in these final 19 minutes of practice. Steve?
And Wendy, while you were talking, Jeff Burton in that 31 Caterpillar this week, Cat Financial Chevrolet, just jumped up to the top of the timing and scoring, P1.
Sure did. Ran a 38.57 over 186 miles an hour. You know, Jeff Hammond was on the racing chef. I think he cooked buzzard.
Now, I bet he cooked some wild game like
goat,
elk.
You know, I'm glad you watch it. He doesn't.
I didn't watch it. Was I right? Did you cook elk?
He did.
Cook some elk stew and some baked apples to go along with that. And
the reason I saw you on TV on our friends at ESPN.
Oh, Driven to Hunt?
Yeah. You had all your gear on, all your camo.
Had my real tree on.
Was he whispering?
Yeah, he was. I got to be calm.
But
they were worried about the wind blowing.
Did I put the smack down on him?
You absolutely did.
Okay.
You absolutely did. So that's what you cooked, elk?
Yep, cooked elk. I really did. It's very good. It's very good for you. Very lean.
It's lean. What does it taste like?
It tastes like roast, like a regular beef roast. It really does.
Saw Mark Martin there in the 5 car, 20th quickest. Here's Casey Kane in the 9, who now we know it will be 2012 before he'll be in that 5 car.
16th overall for Casey.
Are you sure about that now?
Or did you hang on? Start finish line.
He's going to stay 16th, about a tenth and a half off what he ran earlier at a 39.04. That lap was a 39.21. You know, this 9 car, when you look at the run that they had back in June, they were top 5 in it to death other than that engine failure at Loudon. Thought they were going to get there, but they've had a little bumpy road the last 3 races. 13th at Indy, 19th at Pocono, and then 17th at Watkins Glen last week. Kane finds himself now 133 points outside the top 12.
See if Sam Hornish has picked up any. Given credit for 29th quickest, 19 laps of practice complete. It looks like he's headed to the garage.
You know, Larry, you bring up, you know, what happened as far as Kane's performance lately. Last week, big break for a lot of those guys just outside of the top 12 because, again, the 33 had his problems, but Mark Martin didn't capitalize on it. He kind of had an off day, just barely finished inside the top 20th and 19th. So he gave a lot of these guys a little bit of hope and at least another race possibly to gain back on these on that 12th position.
You know, I think we need to expand a little bit on this Red Bull story because I listened very carefully to Jay Fry and Casey Kane the other day. And, you know, it's very unknown as to what will be at Red Bull in 2011. We know that Casey Kane will be there. The couple of things that Jay Fry touched on is obviously one, Brian Vickers continues to be evaluated as far as his health. And, you know, we all certainly hope to see Brian Vickers back in 2011. But I think, quite honestly, what I read in Jay's comments were the fact that they're going to evaluate Scott Speed's performance. It has not been what they were looking for. And I felt bad for Scott because he had a good run last week. He qualified in the top 10, and then the engine lets go on that 82 car. So, and he ends up finishing 43rd. So, but I do think over the next month or two that they're going to really evaluate the performance of this 82 car.
You remember we saw some fireworks here in June between the Red Bull race teams. At that time it was with Casey Mears and Scott Speed. They got together going off into, I think it was turn 1 here during the course of the race. And Casey has now since been moved on to driving for other teams. And we've got Reed Sorensen driving the 83 right now. We're taking a look at last week's winner, Juan Pablo Montoya. He is currently 3rd quickest.
Yeah, that's one thing they have not had a problem is having a fast race car with this 42 car, Bob.
Well, the 31 car has a very fast race car as well, on top of the charts right now. But what was really interesting in listening to Jeff Burton as he kind of cruised around the racetrack coming into the garage area, he was giving detailed happenings of what occurred on the racetrack with his race car. And he said it was a little loose here, it was a little tight in the center, but then in 3 and 4 it got really loose. And then the team got on the radio and said, by the way, you're first quick. So crew chiefs, I want to know, have you ever had that instance with a race car driver where he gets on this and, man, it's kind of loose, it's this, it's that, and then you have to get on and remind him that he's on top of the charts?
Oh, many, many times, especially at this place here, because you're almost trying to exceed the speeds that I think this race car will really accept. As we talked a while ago, only 18 degrees of banking.
Yeah, only 18 degrees of banking. And, Bob, the thing about a situation like that, it's always a little bit of a pleasure to tell them, even though it's not perfect, it is fast.
Now, one thing I do see with their neighbor, the 2 car of Kurt Busch, who right now is 36th quickest, getting him some sticker tires, going to make a little practice qualifying run.
All 3 RCR cars in the top 10. We'll be right back to Michigan. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Sprint Cup practice for Michigan is brought to you by Sprint, the Now Network. Got about 12 minutes left in this practice, and a little bit later on we'll have nationwide practice, then Sprint Cup qualifying, and of course trackside where Jeff Hammond has agreed to spar with Evander Holyfield.
I did.
Yes, you did. You weren't aware of that on the conference call?
Could put a whole new meaning to the bite fight.
Yeah.
Regan Smith and Jamie McMurray also part of Trackside Live tonight.
I'm afraid I'll have to hit him with a chair.
Yeah, you might have to. See if Dale Earnhardt Jr. has been able to pick up any speed. He is just 30th right now with 18 laps.
Something tells me that will be the last person he would hit with a chair.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I'd run too. You wouldn't see me for a while.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. just jumped up to 11th quickest on this little practice qualifying run, 38.91. Boy, we're really starting to
She's
see
changing.
things change because Kurt Busch, we just talked about him putting sticker tires on, making a practice qualifying run. He jumps up to 7th with that 2-car, Wendy.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., the 88 car, is up. He 30th in the practice session. You guys were just saying he's probably not too happy. Well, he said his car feels like junk. Turns 1 and 2, he's not really sure, but it plows in turn 3, and that time, that qualifying run, he just jumped up to 12th. But how about Ryan Newman? He's P15 in this practice session. 1 and 2 are really good for Ryan Newman. Little free off 4, real tight in the center of 3, and he came over the radio after listening some feedback on some of the other cars out there. He said, sounds like Jeff Burton should win the pole today. Bob?
Right now, Jeff Gordon out on the racetrack. He's 17th quick. He just jumped up from 21st quick. And what was really interesting in listening to Jeff Gordon before he hit the track, he has a new spotter for just the last couple of weeks, Jeff Dickerson. And Jeff asked Jeff, basically, what he was doing different than some of the fast guys on the racetrack. And what Jeff Dickerson told Gordon was that in turn number 1 and 2, some of the faster guys were entering the corner a little bit higher. But down in 3 and 4, the faster guys were entering a little bit lower. So that's what Jeff Gordon is trying out on this run right here, is to do exactly what his new spotter, Jeff Dickerson, told him.
Bob, you could just see Jeff Gordon going really about the middle of the way down the racetrack in 3 and 4.
Now that lap right there was definitely faster than his last lap. He's still off from what he ran earlier to 38.96. That lap was a 39.22. Jeff's run a total of 16 laps so far.
But guys, it goes to tell you and show you that this racetrack, even though it looks like it's the same at both ends, is very, very different and very, very tricky as far as trying to find grip right now, as Tony Stewart completes a mock qualifying run and jumps up to 7th quickest.
And I'll tell you, that computer's going crazy right now, the timing and scoring one that is. Carl Edwards just jumped up to 3rd quick.
Tell you what, Tony's got a lot of laps in too. He's run the most of anybody. He's run 26 laps, so it looks like he and Darian Grubb worked on race runs for about an hour. Now here in the final 15 minutes or so, they're working on practice qualifying runs.
RCR cars still 1-2. Jeff Burton and Kevin Harvick.
Look at Carl Edwards right there. I mean, all of a sudden the Roush Fenway guys, I mean, they're 3 and 4.
Yep.
And McMurray and Montoya 5 and 6. I mean, it's like his teammates, man. Got to have a teammate.
And don't forget David Reagan, another Roush Fenway car. Reagan right now 8th overall.
Yeah, he's actually been up in the top 10 or 12 this entire practice session.
I tell you right now, the blue ovals have definitely got the left side of this practice board kind of represented this time. They look like they're pretty strong.
You know, one thing I think we should just touch on, and of course, if you would watch NASCAR Performance, where you always get a lot more in depth on this stuff. Actually, this week, NASCAR Performance, we're going to talk about rear sway bars. We air at 5 p.m. Eastern time this Saturday, and again at 9 a.m. Sunday morning. So we're going to talk about rear sway bars. But
I DVR both episodes.
Well, I'm proud of that. But what I was going to say, it would take a while to explain all of the differences between practice qualifying run and race runs. Obviously, you're looking at the stopwatch, but that's the main thing you're looking at on a practice qualifying run. I go back to the 31 car Bob Dillon was talking about. Okay, I know it didn't feel good, but you're the fastest car right now. But the biggest thing, you'll always be full of fuel, fresh tires on a qualifying run. You'll normally move a little bit of nose weight into the car to help tighten the car up because of the tape you put on the nose. That's the biggest thing you'll see, is a lot more tape on the nose to help the front downforce and help the drag on the straightaways. I promise you, when we watch qualifying later on today, the guys that are in the top 35, you'll be seeing them probably only make 1 lap instead of 2.
Go back to that point about nose weight and having the nose taped up. How does that go hand in hand?
All right, when you put tape on the nose, it adds a lot of front downforce.
Right.
It makes the car looser, especially getting in the corner. When you put more front percentage of weight into the car, which means moving the lead and the rails forward, that helps counter it. That helps tighten the car up, because the other thing that makes the car free is you put all that fuel in the back of the car, so you kind of counter it with moving weight ahead in the frame rails.
It's all about the balance, Steve. It's all about the balance. And you see this car, the Juan Pablo Montoya, making another mock qualifying run. And you can see that front end. It kind of like it's bouncing, but it's staying down there. That back end is, I mean, it's just D-doing around, all the way around. Just moved up to 2nd quickest on his 2nd attempt as far as qualifying. Just about 1/10 of a second slower than Jeff Burton, who is the quickest.
Wendy, what's up with Carl Edwards and that 99 team?
How quickly 15 minutes changes everything. He's P4 in this practice session with that qualifying run. Now speaking with crew chief Bob Osborne, he gave a shout out to his spotter Jason Hedleski and said, thanks Jason, we were able to work on those lines in this practice session. Carl Edwards tried to mock the same lines of all the cars that were running the faster laps earlier in practice. Carl Edwards moved that thanks to a spotter paying attention to the lines from other drivers. Feels good about his car right now, P4, and I'm sure he and Bob Osborne have a great conversation going on right now, Steve.
And one thing about it, this is the 6th anniversary of Carl Edwards' first start in the Sprint Cup Series. He started back here back 6 years ago in August of 2004, finished in the top 10 that day.
A little hand, a little body language right there from Carl Edwards.
This practice is almost over, about 3.5 minutes left. Jimmy Johnson just moved up to 6th on a qualifying run. Ryan Newman, meanwhile, in the 39. Let's see if he picks up. He's just 20th right now with a total of 17 laps on this 2-mile Michigan International Speedway.
Steve, what I'm seeing all of a sudden, this separation between first and a guy that's like 40th is starting to really tighten up. We got about a second between our fastest guy and a guy that's running 41st right now. About a second between those groups. So, I mean, pretty tight.
We've got about 3 minutes left in this practice, and I see about 7 or 8 cars on pit road trying to get out there and get a good clean lap. Now of our go or go homers, it's changed a little bit, but the 4 slowest would be Patrick Carpentier in the 26, Scott Riggs in the 66, Michael McDowell in the 55 car, and then Robbie Gordon, who's in the 07 this week. P.J. Jones is actually in the 7 car of Robbie Gordon Motorsports.
Robbie Gordon still doing things his way.
Boy, you looked at me like I got that wrong.
No. I just
simple question. Why, Robbie?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, I at least like his explanation was we watched the 18-car Kyle Busch trying to make his qualifying run. He's 30th quickest right now. But he says it's all about trying to get more information because he's not a multi-car operation. And anytime he can run both cars, he's able to get a little bit more for his database. And, you know, obviously he's a better qualifier than P.J. Jones, so he's gotten in the 07 to try to get into the show, as well as he's got P.J. in the 7, which is already locked in.
Wendy?
One of the reasons I love covering a car that previously won a race last week is the momentum you can hear on the radio. It doesn't guarantee you're going to have a fast race car when you come to the next racetrack. As the case with Juan Pablo Montoya and the 42 group, they are fast. They've been working on this car, but you could just hear the confidence and the momentum on the radio as they communicate through this hour-and-a-half practice session. Keep in mind, Juan Pablo Montoya has raced here at Michigan 7 times in the Cup Series with no pole. So could today be the day? I know he's got a little bit of confidence on his side.
Wendy, Juan Pablo Montoya has started in the top 3 in the last 3 races and won the pole for 2 of the last 6 events.
Jeff Gordon still searching around. He's 20th quickest. He's run a total of 18 laps. His quickest lap was his first lap on the racetrack when the track opened for practice. But I definitely believe this 24 car can get in the mode over the next 3 or 4 weeks where they can definitely do some experimenting. Comes in here second to points, but I think the biggest thing I look at is the fact, and we were talking about it, I think, at break after we saw that points graphic, is how many goose eggs there are in the win column for a lot of these drivers, which include the 24 car.
Watching the 2 car of Kurt Busch, see what he can do here. Sat on the pole back in June.
He has wins here in June of 2003 and August of 2007.
Got our little buddy that's going to join us on trackside tonight, Regan Smith, and that 78 car, Jeff and Steve, that's jumped up there in the top 10. He is 8th quickest, and that's the way practice will end. In fact, they just handed me a note. Half of our top 12 has yet to win a race in 2010.
A lot of Chevrolets in that top 10. 7 to be exact, 3 Fords. The best Dodge is Kurt Busch. We just saw him. He is 11th quickest. And the best Toyota, David Rudiman, that gets that distinction. He is 14th.
Well, right now, Steve, I'm sitting there looking way on down outside this top 10 at 29th, 30th, and 31st. The Joe Gibb cars, Logano, Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. Not very good.
I love it when a story comes together. I think that's how we started the show an hour and a half ago.
I think that's the way we did start it. Hey, John Roberts is right near that spinning sign. Stay with us after the commercial.